Yamunatira Banachari Yamunatira Yamunatira Banachari Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari Gopichana Vallabha Girivaradari Yashodanandana Brachachana Ranjana Yashodanandana Brachachana Ranjana Yamunatira Banachari Yamunatira Yamunatira Banachari Shri Shri Radha Madhava Ki Srila Prabhupada Ki. Ist nicht dein Ernst, oder? Das ist ja ein Attentat. Vana Mali. Ja. Heavy. Die Last des Prestige. Okay, sprechen wir Deutsch oder Englisch? Sprichst kein Englisch? 50. So, who does not speak German? Please raise your hand. Wer spricht kein Englisch? Hand heben. 1, 2. 2 gegen 2. Du kannst ins Deutsche übersetzen. Ja, ist eher die Frage, ob ich Deutsch oder Englisch sprechen soll. Du verstehst 50%. So you don't speak German at all. Ja. Na gut, dann sprich mal Englisch. So, Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. So we are reading from Shrimad-Bhagavatam, Canto 4, the creation of the fourth order, chapter 24, chanting the song sung by Lord Shiva, text 73. Tevayam nodita sarve pracha sarge pracheshvaraha anena dvasta tamasa sasrikshmo vivida pracha sisrikshmo vivida pracha. Okay. I don't think it matters because nobody understands, but still, it's called Vivida, and here it's written Viviha. Interesting. Ja, hier steht Vivida. Vivida. Aber hier, no, who knows? Ich verstehe es nicht. So. Anyways, noch jemand chanten? Mag noch jemand chanten? Mhm. Ja, ist da. Mhm. Mhm. Wer chantet, soll am Ende das zweite Wort unten. If you chant now, chant Vivida. Just do it. Okay, someone. Tevayam nodita sarve pracha sarge bracheshvaraha anena tvasta dhamasa isikshmo vivida pracha Tevayam nodita sarve anena tvasta dhamasa isikshmo vivida pracha. Okay, te, by him, vayam, all of us, nodita, ordered, sarve, all, pracha sarge, at the time of creating population, pracha ishvaraha, the controllers of all living entities, anena, by this, dvasta tamasa, being freed from all kinds of ignorance. Sisrikshma, we created. Vivida, various kinds of. Praja, living entities. Translation. When all the Prajapatis were ordered to create by Lord Brahma, we chanted these prayers in praise of the Supreme Personality of Godhead and became completely free from all ignorance. Thus, we were able to create different types of living entities. Purport. In this verse, we can understand that the various types of living entities were created simultaneously at the very beginning of the creation. The nonsensical Darwinian theory of evolution is not applicable here. It is not that intelligent human beings did not exist millions of years ago. On the contrary, it is understood that the most intelligent creature, Lord Brahma, was created. Then Lord Brahma created other saintly sages like Marichi, Brigu, Atreya, Vasishta, and Lord Shiva. They in turn created different types of bodies according to karma. In Shrimad-Bhagavatam, Lord Kapila-Dev told his mother that the living entity gets a particular type of body in accordance with his work, and that this body is decided upon by higher authorities. The higher authorities, as appointed by the Supreme Personality of Godhead, are Lord Brahma and all other Prajapatis and Manus. Thus, from the beginning of creation, it can be seen that the first creature is the most intelligent. It is not that the so-called modern intelligence has developed by the gradual process of evolution. As stated in Brahma-Vaivarta Purana, there is a gradual evolutionary process, but it is not the body that is evolving. All the bodily forms are already there. It is the spiritual entity or spiritual spark within the body that is being promoted by the laws of nature under the supervision of superior authority. We can understand from this verse that from the very beginning of creation, different varieties of living entities were existing. It is not that some of them have become extinct. Everything is there. It is due to our lack of knowledge that we cannot see things in their proper perspective. In this verse, the word dvasta tamasa is very important, for without being free of ignorance, one cannot control the creation of different types of living entities. As stated in Shrimad-Bhagavatam 331.1, Daiva netrena. Bodies are awarded under the supervision of superior powers. How can these superior powers control the evolutionary process of the living entity if they are not free from all imperfection? The followers of the Vedic instructions cannot accept the Darwinian theory of evolution, for it is marred by imperfect knowledge. Homa Yajna timirandhasya ginanjana shalakaya chakshumilitam dina tasmai Shri Gurave Namaha. Mukam karoti vachalam pangung langayati girim yat kripatamahang vande Shri Gurun dinataranam. Shri Chaitanya manobhistam stapitam nina bhutale swayam rupa kadamayam dadati swavanantikam. Jai Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadada Shiva Sadi Gaura Bhakta Vrinda. Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare Hare. So, when all the Prajapatis were ordered to create by Lord Brahma, we chanted these prayers in praise of the Supreme Personality of Godhead and became completely free from all ignorance. Thus we were able to create different types of living entities. Hare Krishna. So Srila Prabhupada focuses here in the purport on a modern topic. A topic probably no one before him was discussing in the Bhagavatam. I don't think you find Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur speaking in this way, or Jiva Goswami, Ramanuja, or I don't know who. Maybe they were responding also to philosophies predominating at the time which had similar implications that might be there, because more or less in the Vedic thought, that's a bit difficult to say, but they are, like recently I was looking into Charvaka's philosophy. Not really, but a little bit more. Charvaka, right? So everyone knows Charvaka because Prabhupada quotes one shloka of his a couple of times or sometimes in his preaching. And this is the only reason why I know Charvaka or heard about him. When Prabhupada quotes this verse where it said, either you steal, he says, beg, borrow and steal. Beg, borrow and steal, ghee. Purpose of life is ghee. Whatever you do, just get ghee, and then the life is perfect. This is Charvaka saying, and Prabhupada quotes this a couple of times, sometimes. But who was Charvaka? Charvaka was a very ancient sage, actually, philosopher, Indian philosopher. And actually not much of his philosophy is remaining. But because he seemed to have some importance at his time, many other philosophers were responding to his philosophy, and so we more or less only know about him through his critics. Through the critics. At least he survives through his critics, because it's a very old philosophy. And it's a completely materialistic philosophy, because he was not believing in life after death, he was not believing in God, he was a materialist, and that's why he said ghee is the purpose of life, meaning sense enjoyment. Because ghee is the source of sense enjoyment. If you have a lot of ghee in your cooking, you can be very happy, you can eat, the tongue is happy, and he was a complete materialist. And he was right in his materialistic understanding, sure. Huh? He was not saying money, he says ghee. Because money is anyway, you cannot eat the money. You will buy the ghee with your money. So ghee is the purpose. All right? Huh? So, and many things he seems to have said, they are completely materialistic and go in line with many materialistic people, conviction of materialistic people. So I just say that because I said we will not find in Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur or other acharyas purports, explanations, things which we heard here. We might not hear these details, but we might hear refutations of different philosophies which were dominating at their time, which might still be in one shape or another be present nowadays. So, but Prabhupada mainly spoke about here about a philosophy which is very, very extremely dominant nowadays, and it's the philosophy of Darwin, or a philosophy which started with Darwin because he more or less laid the foundation stone for this idea. He came up with the idea. It's always difficult to say who came up with the idea first, because sometimes it's a succession of scholars, and one was the one who made a certain philosophy very prominent. He had the ability to bring it in the present, either through some fancy wording, right, or some certain marketing or whatever it might be, yeah, like Red Bull. Everyone knows Red Bull, which is a huge brand nowadays. But the guy who founded it, what was his name? He died recently. Forgot the name. Extremely successful businessman. He just took the formula from some. He was in Asia and traveled. He was a businessman and just found this drink. That's actually good, and it was like a no-name nothing. And he just took the formula and made a huge brand. So it was there already, Or even Shankara. It's not that Shankara invented Advaita Vedanta. He had also a guru, Gaurapad, like a little bit before him, and but he was the one who formulated in a way that it became like a mass thing. Yeah. So Darwin might not have been like the one, but he was definitely, he took different ideas, but he put it together in his evolutionary theory. Yeah, the theory of evolution, the theory of the survival of the fittest, and the law of der natürlichen Auslese. How's it said in English? Natural selection, yes. Natural selection, yeah. Natural selection and survival of the fittest, the two principles of evolution. So he was the one who, and it said he was Darwin, of course, was a scholar from England, and had some rich background, because scholars at that time, they needed some financial backing. And many of them came from, I don't know if it particularly was also in his situation, but many came from a kind of rich background. Like most of the philosophy, also literature we have nowadays, and which we call classics, was written by people who were materially stable. Because if we were not materially stable, you had no time for writing. How can you have the time for writing if you have to work all day long? Yeah, so it's also interesting that we can, even though we modern people, left-wing, politically left-wing oriented people, criticize the ancient form of economy, which was based on what is the word? Ausbeutung. Exploitation. Yeah, very good. She knows. I can refer always. I don't need a word. Exploitation. Yeah, so they say, oh, bad exploitation, this and that. But actually, exploitation brought so much intellectual pursuit, and because if they would have to work, it would be difficult. So they were free to write and think. Maybe it was not only exploitation. Maybe it was also the general social situation. But back to the Darwin. So Darwin, he was on this famous, and this is more or less a legend, I was never historically researching that, but this is what is told in the schools and universities. And now that he made this excursion with this ship, even the ship had a name. Okay, so that was some name of this ship. Now the legendary ship, when they came then to these islands. Yes, Galapagos-Inseln, you say in German, Galapagos-Inseln. Because he was a biologist, was researching nature, and people at that time, they were very curious. They wanted to find out what kind of living entities are out there, and in England, you're kind of limited what you find, a couple of sheep and horses. Now probably a bit more, but still, when you go to other places, there's a different biology, different botanic and flora and fauna, as you say in German, flora and fauna, animals and plants. And he was interested in this Galapagos Islands, what is there, and then he found the Finken. these birds, right? How they called? The Finken? Okay. Huh? Anyways, this, huh? Die Darwin. Whatever. Okay. The Darwin thing. Anyway, but he found these birds and he just saw that one bird has a longer beak and the other is shorter, and he wondered why is that? And most probably it has to have been because of natural selection, because at a certain time these birds, they could not get maybe the seeds or whatever, and the bird thought, my God, it's stupid for me to eat because my beak is way too small and I need a longer beak. So through evolution, I will use evolution, I will channel the evolution, and then I will get in next generations a bigger beak, and then I can eat better. So that was kind of his, I think this is how it was. I think this is how it was. Let me write that down. Yeah, let me proclaim that. Let me go back to England now and tell it everyone that I found out how the whole variety of life came about. In a certain time, the living entity thought it's stupid to be me. They were not satisfied. They wanted to change, and they thought it would be cool if I can upgrade myself in this or that way. The ancient giraffe, how do you say? Giraffe. Ancient giraffe, was standing there with a very short neck, and looking up the tree and thought, wow, this fruit looks so nice, but that's a bit difficult, let me upgrade, And then they did, and now you have this funny animal with this huge neck. And can reach everything what it wants. Yeah? So the animals were quite smart. Of course, the animals were not deciding that. Evolution was deciding that for them. And then with time, because over a long period of time, it's possible that the living entities change. And there's a proof for that. If you are a breeder of any kind of living entity, let's take dogs, because this is quite common. You have a dog which is very small and fat and has long hair, and you breed the dog with a dog of the same kind, which is also small and fat and has long hair. You will get a dog which is small and fat and has long hair. But if you think, I want to have a dog which is small and fat and has short hair, I breed this small and fat and long-haired dog with a dog which is small and fat but has short hair. I do that. And you do that. And the next generation, the hairs already shrink. And you keep on doing this, and in the end it will work out. Yeah? Or with humans. It works also. Of course, this is a kind of a bit tricky topic, no? Breed the humans, but in one sense, people who are smart are doing that. And in Vedic society, they were smart, and they said, okay, maybe only people kind of fit together should procreate. It's good for them, and it's good for the society in general. And it's called Varnashram Dharma. There you were kind of protective. And even people nowadays are a little bit selective. You don't create population with anyone. You look, is this partner kind of fitting to me? Whatever the how to say, the raster might be, how you decide it. But some people say, okay, like if I'm a rich man and then I see this woman, I'll check what is her background, is she rich or not, or the family and all that. You will see, okay, she is also rich, and the background, our families will work together. So this is more economic based or sometimes psychology or some whatever. But the point is that the genes, if they mix, they have a certain outcome. So Darwin took this as a proof. Look, this is how it's possible. This is how possible how the shapes, the bodies can change over time and completely. Now look at the dogs you have. It's amazing what kinds of dogs they invented. It's amazing. That wasn't there before. Just this, Frankensteinian minds, they came about it. Oh, let me have a dog which is a very short nose but a very long tail, and Oh, yes, it hasn't been there before. Huh? Yeah, sheeps and whatever, This is, and so Darwin thought, hey, yeah, evolution, this is the proof for the evolution. That means we should change a bit the text of the book. Prabhupada says it wasn't like that, but it was like that. So what we do now? Maybe we haven't read that one. Okay, next page. Maybe something more transcendental, nothing what we can prove in an empiric way. Just about Krishna, and you cannot. Krishna is, above the empiric. So, okay, so what we do now? It's a problem. Okay, anyways, was a nice time with you in the Hare Krishna movement. Well, I decided now to go back to university. I'm a little in doubt now. Huh? The crisis of the Bhagavatam speaker. Huh? A live crisis of the Bhagavatam speaker. What do you do with that? Huh? Do you have it on video? Yes? You have to document that. This is like amazing. Because of times of honesty and transparency, this is very nice to be honest, I have an issue now. Yeah, okay. Definitely, Prabhupada was criticizing that and saying to Darwin, actually, I'm not the most qualified person to criticize Darwin, but there's so many really qualified people who are actually scientists who study all that, research that, and they have big issues with, not directly with Darwin, but also the neo-Darwinian thought, whatever came out of that, and modern views, and they say it's not a perfect theory. And there are many who really have issues with that. So it's not just religious people who have issues, even scientists have issues with the evolutionary idea. But concerning the proof that you can breed out of living entities, that this is like a experiment for evolution, the point is there are two kinds of, you can say, evolutions. One is called macroevolution, one is called microevolution. Yeah? And the microevolution is a fact. This is, as I said, this breeding. This is a fact, this works. But macroevolution means really that from one living entity comes a more or less completely different living entity. And I'm exaggerating now, but that from a spider in time comes out, a bird or something. Of course, probably no scientist will say that, but just to show the point that macroevolution, meaning that from a complete different living entity comes another one. And in general, it doesn't start with the changing of different kinds. Actually, evolutionary thought dominates the whole scientific field. It's like the principle for every creation or coming into existence. It's not only the changing or the variety of living forms. Evolution means from a simple comes a complex. Right? From the simple comes the complex. And if we go back, it starts already with the emergence of life. There the evolutionary thought, actually, this is where it starts. That is said that from dead matter, life comes about because of a chemical evolution. Actually, it's a chemical evolution. Because all of us, we are made out of matter. But what kind of matter? Yeah, the body is made out of cells, and in the cell you have a cell nucleus, and in the nucleus you have a DNA, and the DNA consists of proteins, and the proteins consist of amino acids, and there are, 20 or 22 different kinds of amino acids, and they are like small Lego blocks, and if the amino acids are put together in the right order, and then folded in a certain way, you have a certain protein, and there are many different kinds of proteins. Because of 22 amino acids, you have a huge variety of different proteins you can create, and more or less the body is then built out of these proteins. So, and in the beginning, according to Darwin, you feel yourself put back into school, 4th grade or 6th grade, I don't know when you learn that. But I remember when I learned that in school, I think our professor, he was not believing that himself. Because when he told us that, he had such a weird smile, and he had to teach that because looking back, he was not believing it. Because he told us, outside, die Ursuppe. You know, there was for a long time ago was the cosmic. There was the cosmic, and actually this is I don't know if it's a Du sagst die Ursuppe. Yeah. Ur finds more the primordial. But they call it. It was a soup. It was the soup when the earth was cut of elements were there inside, and there was nothing else. There was nothing else. There was no life. There was no life. No AI. Nothing. No life at all. Yeah, nothing. Is for life. And at a certain day in time, I don't know when was right. That was the real D-Day. Yeah, starting. It was that cosmic soup. I don't know. There was some wind was hitting it. You know, so certain came together and they formed. And they say this is when the life, and from that on, ta-da! But I haven't studied chemistry. I haven't studied completely. What is it? What is the word? Naive, no problem. But as a highly developed psychological being, I would even doubt that in this cosmic soup, this amino acid got created by chance. Many other chances for many other, and interesting enough, way to the protein without a DNA. Because it's created by the DNA. Because DNA, which is in every cell and every one of us, code, which consists everything concerning the body. Everything what's all the time in the body, something and growing, right? So if some then someone, a little bit at least. When I heard this the first time, I was really amazed. I only heard about it's crazy actually. No? So, let's say if you take one hair and it's coming out of the head. Well, let's hear this a little bit easier for me to see. So here one hair is coming out. Anyway, so if it's now 2-3 centimeters long, more and more, and I could grow it like really long. Some of you have more proof for that. Yeah? Devotees, male devotees have very, impressing. From here to here. Why is it so long? Because and it's just coming out. It's like a roll of hair. Actually, some or other in the skin created. And the material, the hair material. But how is this? It's correct me. It's because in the DNA, in chapter or passage in the text, which is in this protein. Huh? It's a code. It's a code. But when you don't to grow, some people, they don't have hair anymore. It means, hair. My God, he's getting bald. He's getting bald. This is why some are bald. So, but the point is, this is a big book. So, what is really happening? There's tiny, very small, very small. Inside the cell is the nucleus. And is the book. And outside there's like a liquid. They drive all day long, and suddenly they get the instruction. then, and he has also a little propeller. There's a little propeller, and it said this hair would grow. Everyone would be bald if he has like, oh, twist this propeller. And it turns super 1,000, how's it called? Yeah, RPM, yeah, exactly, repetitions per minute. It's super fast and can stop, super efficient. So anyway, he drives inside to the book, but he has to pass. Book is inside the nucleus of the cell, and there's a screw, and he knows where hair is. Exactly where it is. Here it is, and he reads the text, makes a copy. It's called messenger RNA. You heard about this? Because actually he goes to the certain part of. He cuts the part where the text passage is happening. Here. I don't remember the exact detail, but somehow he copies it of exactly this passage, this part. And this, I don't know exactly, but he somehow takes this strand out of the nucleus into another machine. It's only the instruction. He just copied the instruction from the DNA. And then it goes into real parts. And out of this machine comes this amino acid chain, is folded in a certain way. And this is the probably way more simple than it's happening. The hair part or something. And then it's transported to where the hair has some other, whatever you need, whatever the body is producing, or skin or whatever. Just go in, out, because so many cells are in the body. Right? It's not only one cell, 1,000 millions, and all the time these machines go in, out, in. So, but my point now, because it needs the DNA, that the creation now of the amino acid in you need instruction how to put this, that it forms a protein which is needed for life. Was it simultaneously created by the flash of light? Maybe in the cell, because he said this actually got light. Yeah, and not a scientific explanation then, but for me it's like real. This is what I've been living. The Prajapati. Praja means the lords or the masters, and Pati of the created all the living entities. They were not happening by evolution. And they have mystical powers, and they can create a whole variety of life forms. And they have mystical powers to do that. And they populate the whole worlds. And all that started with Brahma. Brahma is the original Prajapati. He was the first out of whom all the generations come, living entities come. Super powerful living entity. So Prabhupada, as we heard here, criticized the Darwinian thought, not only because actually it's not proven, and it's presented always as there's a proof for that, the fossil record and whatever they want, like fossil record, also interesting thing, right? They say there is a fossil record that you have all these different fossils you found, and there you see the evolution from one to the other, and you see step by step how in the different times, because the fossils, they kind of preserve the time, and there you can see how everything happened. But they speak, even Darwin knew about this so-called Cambrian explosion. There's a certain layer in the earth, and they call it the Cambrian. Cambrian was a certain time. And there, in this Cambrian, you have so many fossils of all kinds of living entities, but no proof where they were coming from. And the other layers before that, there were almost nothing. And they speak about the Cambrian explosion. And even Darwin said, if this is researched more and proven, this is actually putting my whole theory to rest. because there's no proof for evolution towards this Cambrian so-called explosion. Yeah, so as I said, I'm not a scientist. This is, if someone is interested in this, he can research in all kinds of directions. Now this, through the power of digital transference of information or internet, it's very easy to educate yourself in all kinds of fields. And Prabhupada wanted that some devotees who are inclined to that, know about all that, to put be an anti-party towards this philosophy. And this philosophy is not just unproven, but the main point is that it is atheistic. So this was Prabhupada's main problem with it, that is an atheistic philosophy. And not just because then religion cannot survive or something, but it takes the soul out of humanity. This is the main point. Atheism takes the soul out of humanity, because then we are really only material beings, and the purpose of life is just material, and there is no moral in the end, because after this life everything is over and we are dead and unconscious, and it doesn't matter what you do actually. Like, moral is just an illusion. Moral is just an illusion. There's no good and bad. It doesn't makes no sense, especially if a good behavior is against your self-interest. Why should you do that? Why should you be selfless or nice to someone if it doesn't bring you anything, suit you? It's stupid. Moral is just stupid. In a materialistic, atheistic worldview, moral is just a hindrance and shouldn't be a principle. Okay, it's good for social stability, which serves me in the end, but if a certain moral behavior doesn't bring me anything, or even the opposite is the case, I shouldn't do it, So, but if there are some consequences for our behavior, and there is a different evaluation than just the self-interest, then the moral would make sense. So, but this is the main problem with atheism and all these atheistic philosophies, which are very dominant today, that in the end they lead to you can say, dehumanizing of the humans. And it takes the soul away, the purpose, the higher purpose away of a human being. And atheists, they fight against this. They fight against this when I say that, because no, we have also values, and there is moral, and we have also purpose and all that. They fight for that, because this is what religious, spiritual people always criticize in atheism, especially at this point, and they don't want to let that stand. And so they came up with all kinds of fancy philosophies. The most famous is Camus, who said, yeah, it's true that there is actually no purpose in life, but this is the beauty of it, that we can give ourselves a purpose. Yeah, actually there is no purpose, and this is the mission of life. Even though there is no purpose, there is no God, there's nothing really to live for, but this is the beauty, that you can find it for yourself, whatever it is. But in the end you die and it doesn't matter. But still, until then. So he is extremely influential, this Camus, with his existentialism, right? This is the philosophy, it's called existentialism. So yeah, Prabhupada was against that. Obviously, it will not satisfy the soul, and Krishna consciousness is the perfect answer for all these doubts and problems. And even though we are not scientists and are not studying this all day long, because your head would not just explode, but we in the end completely bored actually, our real answer is the practice of bhakti yoga, which is joyfully performed and is a proof for our truth. The proof, as Prabhupada says, the proof is in the pudding. How to say, or Prabhupada said, what's the use of honey? Or how do you know what is honey? Right? How do you know what is honey? You can study the label. Dieser Honig kommt aus vielen EU-Ländern. Now this is from many different EU countries. Yeah, or you have this Vielblütenhonig. We have now the Vielblütenhonig. Sounds very nice, but actually it means it's not pure. From vielen Blüten. Vielblütenhonig. It's not so nice actually. Yeah, but anyway, so honey, so you can study the label, you take a sample, put it under the microscope, You can study the bees, how they create it. Yes, you can get so many information about honey, and you can write a whole book about honey. Yeah. But if you really want to know what is honey, Prabhupada says you stick your finger in, you taste it, and then oh, that's honey. And that's the purpose of honey. What to know about it? Just taste it. Oh, very nice. So in the same way, the proof is in experience. Yeah, when we chant Hare Krishna, Kirtan, lecture, Katha, and we become happy and sane and satisfied with our life and Krishna conscious in the end, then this is the proof for its truth. It works. It works. It makes you happy. What's the use of being incredibly smart, knowing everything, thinking you know everything, and being completely miserable? Right? So the purpose is happiness. The purpose is happiness. When you're happy, you're happy. It doesn't matter if it rains, you sit in a wonderful glamping tent. Is someone staying there right now? I don't know. I have a nice balcony. This glamping tents, I think they are happy. I hope. You cannot look from the glamping tent towards be there, become envious. I hope they're not, because they have patience. So, but the purpose is happiness. Yeah, if you're happy, tent on the balcony, inside, outside, in any situation. Yeah, does have what you achieved or not. When you're happy, you're happy. Yeah, and the way to become happy is Krishna consciousness. It's a way of real happiness. Real happiness. If you do it right. Because there's so many devotees who are miserable. Yeah, there's so many devotees who are miserable. And say, sometimes a little bit, but in general miserable. Prabhupada said, you are doing something wrong. Krishna consciousness has the power to make you happy. It could work, but you're too lazy to really do it. You're too lazy to change your situation. You're too lazy to take help. Right? So, but in general, Krishna consciousness, there's so many devotees who approve, they worked it out, and they're really happy. Okay, so that was a bit from my side to this purport. It's a topic, many years I was into this, so I remembered something now. I could present this cell stuff, this and that. I was very interested some years ago. It's fascinating, but in the end, it's about Krishna. So any question or remarks? Yes. I don't know who was first. They were quite quick all together. It was an photo finish.
I have a doubt about the propeller people.
The propeller people.
We are presented that there are different species of life, like coming down to insects, which we see as the smallest people. So can a jiva become such an entity in its evolutionary
if there's a jiva inside.
process?
Prabhupada sometimes says the microbes, right? Prabhupada says sometimes microbes. Sometimes he even translates Gopindra, like this. He also sometimes translates this as microbes and not necessarily as. So, yeah.
So I was wondering, maybe
I don't know who is doing that, but it's a fact. Very good, because before they thought it's more simple process and more complex than a city. It's amazing what's happening there. Yeah. So maybe it's guided by the super soul. Maybe it's guided by some jivas, because maybe the body is consisting of unlimited jivas doing all that. I don't know who is directing that. Yeah. But these small machines, they know exactly what to do. Like animals, anyways, right? Ants, sometimes we have ants there. They know exactly what to do. They're amazing. They find their way to the food. They make their chain. They bring it out. Everyone knows what to do, and they're trained. Not trained. They're like programmed. They're programmed, and they cannot do anything else. They have their it's called instinct. Their programming, and they do nothing else but that. The ants will always do like this, or spiders. We have spiders sometimes. You have a certain spider, like the Kreuzspinne. Sometimes we have this with the cross. And it knows exactly how to build a net. And it will never build a different net. Like we have these other ants, spiders, I don't know how they are called, but they build completely different nets. They make this tunnel nets, and it's very thick. And they have like a tunnel, and outside, and the animal stick, and it comes out of the tunnel. It will never build a net like the Kreuzspinne. It's always this funny tunnel thing. It doesn't look so nice, actually. I want to build one, It's like the neighbor who's watching all the other ones. I want to have a house like he also, car like him, No, the ants or these animals, they know what to do. They are not envious. This is how they do it, their program. So also these small machines, some or other, they know exactly what to do, when to do, what to do, and this is what they do. Of course, very limited, but also good for us. So yeah, but I don't know if it's the Jiva or Paramatma. I don't know.
I was thinking it would add to this dimension of it's such an entanglement to be in the material world, like how small you can become, so to say.
Yeah, maybe if it's the Jivas, how small you can become, sure. Yeah. And it's also interesting, when you look in smaller and smaller and smaller, there's always something going on. It's because they thought, because atom, you say atom, but it comes from the Greek. Atom means actually something what you cannot divide. Atom, no? Somehow or other, it means you cannot divide it. But the atom, the so-called atom, what we have now, you can divide into so many parts of the electron, and proton, or neutron, and even though some of these parts you can go smaller, you have different, this is why they come up with this string theory and all this stuff. And probably they even go smaller and smaller and smaller. And in the end, I don't know, Paramatma must be there. Then I don't know if you can see him. Yeah. No, it's at Paramatma. It's in the Andantarasta Paramanu Chayantarastam, said in Brahma Samhita. It's a Parama Anu. Parama means the highest or the most extreme, the highest form. Anu means smallest. In the smallest, Andantarastam, stam means like positioned. In this Paramanu, the Jiva, the super soul is positioned in the smallest. But what is the Paramanu? Paramanu is not what we call atom. It must be even smaller. Smaller. There's some real building block, but it's so small they cannot see it. This they cannot see. Okay, anyway, other question? Maybe.
Haribol Prabhu, thank you very much for the lecture. My question was regarding an observation that the Vishnu avatars basically follow the same ladder of the Darwinian evolution, the Matsya avatar in the water, and the Kurma avatar, the amphibian, and the Varaha avatar, the mammal, and the Nrsimhadev, half man, half animal. It goes on. So if you could throw some light on this topic.
Yeah, of course. This is an interesting point, that there's a reflection of this. But Prabhupada says, sometimes Prabhupada said that Darwin stole the evolutionary theory from the Vedas. Yeah. But Prabhupada said, but it's not that there is an evolution of the bodies or living entities, but it's an evolution of consciousness. So there's an evolution of consciousness. And this is true, that the Jiva, when it falls into the pool of material existence, meaning if it loses actually itself right, especially as a human being, and then it falls down into all these life forms, and from there's a natural automatic progression from one life form to the other according to consciousness. And it said actually the aquatics have the lower consciousness, then you have the plants, and then you have the insects and reptiles, and until to the mammals, until to the humans. And the soul will, from in an automatic way, travel through all this, because there's no karma involved, right? They produce no karma, and until they come to the human plane again. So maybe Krishna wants to reflect, but one interesting point is also the Dasha avatars, as far as I know, or let's say we have to check if this is actually the chronology. Because if you look into the Bhagavatam, I'm not sure if this is the real chronology according to the yugas. If it is, okay, but maybe not. Then you have, then this is just, but then it's interesting when and who and how arrange the Dasha avatars in such a way, right? Not according to chronology, but according to an evolution of some sort.
Interesting. Thank you very much.
Yeah.
Yeah, thank you very much for such a scientific lecture. I just got a doubt recently for a few days regarding the way how artificial intelligence is created, because actually in the process of creating artificial intelligence that we use every day almost, so ChatGPT, is basement is this evolution theory that there's like, it's actually very easy. You just need a strong PC, and there's like one script who creates some random change in other script, and he like create like such 1,000 copies that's a little bit different from each other, and there is other script that just choose from this 1,000 the best one, so the surviving process, take this again, and then make first script again, make a change, make again 1,000 copies, and it's like, and such process happens like every second 1,000 times, and you just let it
calculated very fast.
Yeah, you just left it for a few weeks, this computer on, and it's at the end you get some ChatGPT or something, so some things that can.
Yeah. So your point is there's also an evolution.
Yeah. So there's like, and it's also unimaginable. It seems to be alive. So if you take a look, like he'll. So intelligence answers. Of course, ChatGPT always answer, no, I'm really not really live. But I'm sure if somebody would like to create some artificial intelligence that would like to imitate humans, and it would be almost impossible to to see the difference. So it was my doubts, like how it can be.
So the first thing is, if we criticize not evolution in general, we just criticize that evolution is generalized, that everything is created through evolution. This is the problem, because it's not, but that there is evolution happening in certain fields. This is for sure, this effect. Yeah, doesn't mean that everything was static. Is static. There's change in society. There's evolution also towards a certain betterment, so to say. Right? You see in the technology and whatever. Yeah, things change, get better, evolve. Evolute? No, evolve. Right? Evolve. So for sure, evolution is a principle of life, but it doesn't mean everything came about through evolution, and it doesn't mean that life comes through evolution. But things change. And concerning AI, as I said, in technological field, there's an evolution, and also in computer science, there's an evolution, and this is now a huge progress that they found out is in artificial intelligence. And but there is no life in it. It cannot be life. Even how well it simulates life, consciousness, and a human, in the end, it's a code. And this is actually even more amazing. It cannot produce life because there is no consciousness, but it reflects consciousness so well. Yeah. So this is a wonder. This is really a wonder, this artificial intelligence. As many things are wonders. It's amazing what is possible, so to say. What is possible to create for humans. Because we are powerful living entities. Because we are parts of Krishna. And a soul can create so many things. But I wouldn't call it demonic, but the imitation in the end of the real life and in imitation of God, this is kind of a demonic tendency. And this is completely manifest actually in certain realms, which are called the lower worlds. In these lower worlds, there is the perfect imitation of nature. And they call it even Bila Svarga. Svarga means heavens. These are technological heavens. Bila means actually caves, because they are under the earth. They are in different dimensions under the earth. And they created a complete technological heaven. They call Svarga, heavenly planets. But everything there is completely artificial and soulless also. So it doesn't make you happy. So all the technological advancement we have now, it will never make humans happy. It can only make happy if we use it in Krishna's service. Utility is the principle. So then it works, because this is what is the purpose of life, that we serve God with whatever we have. But if we just imitate God and take just God's opulences for our own pleasures, then we are actually starving spiritually. Yeah.
Thank you very much. I have the second question. You just described now very detailed the biological, how our body works, and I'm always doubting why, so in Vedas, everything described is so general. Why Vedas never give such exact description, because it would convince much more people also to follow it.
Because at first is the Vedas give enough knowledge for a happy life. Yeah. This is the Vedas give a perfect knowledge for a happy and socially stable society. And as I said, many advances we have nowadays are not needed for such a lifestyle. Yeah? And as we speak about medical information, there are amazing informations in the Vedas, definitely. And there were schools for this. You have the what was his name? The inventor of Ayurveda. Huh? No. Anyways, there were a couple of sages. Anyways, so they wrote about Ayurveda and medical sciences and even transplantation. Yeah, they knew how to transplant different parts of the body and this and that. So they had sufficient knowledge, and much of knowledge is also lost. And because we are in Kali Yuga now, which is extremely materialistic, we know more about matter, for sure. We know more about matter, at least in comparison to the Vedic knowledge we have now. We don't know what they knew before. We don't know how it was really structured, the society was structured. Maybe many of the things known today were definitely not needed at that time anyways, right? It's more that we complicate life. We complicate life, and that needs many new solutions, and we come up with the complicated solutions. And we think this is advancement also, right? What's the use of all this artificial intelligence? What is the use of it? I know I'm working with it all day long. I know it's very helpful, but it's not needed. It's only needed now because we complicated the whole life. And when you look at what in artificial intelligence needs to survive, all the power, the electricity, what is needed to create that, the whole background of it, it's crazy. And for this we fight wars and kill each other because it's a fight for energy. It's an energy crisis. It's happening there in the Middle East now. This is all symptoms of our materialistic consciousness. So we might have all these materialistic gadgets, but for what price? So in the Vedic society means actually a simple society, where many of these things are not needed and people are more satisfied. Yeah, Sanjay?
It seems that they had water weapons and wind weapons and mountain weapons.
Yeah.
So and
like
and Sanjaya, he didn't need a camera. He could see the battlefield just by his internal TV.
Yeah, they say there's yantra and there's mantra, right? Yantra and mantra. Yantra means machine, right? In the lower planetary systems, they perfected the machines, the yantras, and also Kali Yuga is an age of this nether world consciousness, so to say. And a mantra means a mystic power. With the mantra, you create mystic power. So they have, in the higher realities, they have the mystic powers. And in former times, people had this technology, this mantra technology, which was not needing all this manipulation of the matter itself. It was in subtle and mystical manipulation, different kinds of technology. Yeah. Okay. Okay, last question.
Is there? It sounds very like a Christianity that they're preaching like this, like DNA and all this is like a proof for existence of God. But are devotees also going into this field? Is there?
Christian? Why Christian?
It sounds like to me because that the Christians preach that they use this for
Christian groups
use this.
Yes, but it's not a Christian preaching
Yeah.
per se. It's just that these groups found a way. Yeah, anyways, yeah.
Yeah. But is this also some?
Prabhupada wanted that.
Prabhupada wanted it. Okay.
Sure, Prabhupada founded the BI, Bhaktivedanta Institute, exactly for that. It's just that these Christians are way ahead of us. Way ahead of us.
Okay.
So they are actually doing what we should do.
Okay. And is there amongst in our movement some swamis or some books you know?
We were good at former times with the founders of the BI, especially with Sadaputta and Bhakti Swarup Damodar Maharaj. When they were alive, they were working in this direction, and that we lost them. It's a real shame, a real pity, really bad. So there is trying to form the BI in a new way, especially in America. And nowadays there are also two BIs, at least two BIs. There's one Indian and one. Anyway, there's also a quarrel between these two. But yeah, right now I don't think it's that impactful. But there is a certain endeavor of devotees who have a scientific background to come together and work on that. I know that. I know one devotee who is in the BI. So they're trying, and maybe in time we'll come out like this again. Like, it's too big of a topic if I start talking now about this. Is too big. But there was one saying by Nietzsche, God is dead. And scientists took this over, and they really proclaimed, finally, we can put him to rest. And then in the beginning of, mid of 2000s, like 2010s around, there was this resurgence, especially, as you say, Christians, of these groups, but not just scientists, also philosophers, very, very smart people who brought God back into the sciences, especially into philosophy department. And now they have to rewrite the history and say, oh God, actually the resurrection, the scientific resurrection of God in these fields. They made huge endeavor, huge advances. Yeah, he also did something like this, yeah. But compared to these groups, we are not so impactful. But there is potential, and it needs the right devotee. As I said, Sadaputta especially, Prabhu, he was very good in this. Anyway, yeah, if someone he hears the call in this direction, should do something. Okay, thank you so much for your kind attention. Srila Prabhupada ki